is much, much faster than Pathfinder. If you are having trouble with games moving exceedingly slow when it comes to combat, this is great. The D&D 5th is fantastic. Especially in terms of like if you're running small encounters and stuff like that, fine, you know. And it gets where it gets really the main way it does that, aside from extracting out the mats, is the advantage-disadvantage system. It essentially takes out modifiers entirely. So, for instance, there's no flanking. It's gone. There's no high ground or low ground. There's no being prone or... There's none of that. You know, there's no positioning. There's no conga line of death. There's merely advantage or disadvantage. It's more a role-playing thing, really. Basically, on your turn, you will simply declare who you're attacking and what you're doing, and the DM will say either it's just a fair fight, or one of you has a clear advantage or a clear disadvantage. And if you have the advantage, you'll roll 2 20-sided dice, and you choose the higher roll. If you have a clear disadvantage, you roll 2 20-sided dice, and you take the lower roll. That seems logical, but I hate it for a number of reasons. One is it's a really all-or-nothing prospect. For instance, it doesn't matter how big the advantage is or how big the disadvantage is, the result is the same. So, for instance, if I have a friend flanking the enemy, just forget the term flanking, and let's just say the situation is the same. You know, I have a guy front and back. In Pathfinder, it would be just a +2. In this version, I would have the advantage and get 2d20. Fair enough. Let's say, in another case, I'm on a table and I'm fighting swashbuckler style on a guy on the ground. I would have the advantage, 2d20. Let's say I'm on a table and also I have a guy flanking him, 2d20. Let's say the guy is surrounded. It's 5-on-1. I have the advantage, 2d20. Let's say the guy is on the ground and his arm is broken and his sword is broken. The advantage, 2d20. Second, it kind of relies on your ability to argue on whether or not you have the advantage or not. Again, you would disagree, like, well, it's going to be obvious whether or not you have the advantage or not. But now you're going to have people arguing, for instance, like, well, I have the sun at my back. He's looking right into the sun. I have the advantage. You're going to get people doing that. I guarantee it. You're going to get people trying to do too much during their turn. You know, like, I kick dust, you know, I kick a mote of dust in their face. That gives me, you know, and, you know, I try insulting him during my turn, like Gawain in the Green Knight, you know, that must unnerve him greatly. You know, you're going to see things like that. You know, like I spit wine in his face. You know, like, before the fight I drank a sip of wine, and then during this is stuff I would do. Let's just put it that way. You know, before the fight breaks out, I would drink a sip of wine. I would tell them this, you know, I would tell the DM, like, and then I spit the wine in his face. That would give me the advantage, wouldn't it? And the DM would probably be like, yeah. But that's the thing, is it would be this eye-rolling, min-maxing bullshit. And all of a sudden, it would be this game. It would all of a sudden become this game between the player and the DM, trying to wrangle advantage and disadvantage out of each other. You know, it would become a court case. And I don't like that. One could also easily argue the fairness, the balance between how much it screws you to having to roll and choose the highest between 2d20. That seems really, really like a kick in the nuts if you're at the disadvantage. Do not like that system. The other system I do not like is called Inspiration. I believe it's Inspiration. Yeah, Inspiration. These are a lot like bennies. Bennies are something I don't like in Savage Worlds. I don't like bennies in any game. Basically what bennies are, or inspiration is, they're like, actually I can't remember what they, I think they give you the advantage. Basically they're rewards granted to you by the DM for good role-playing. And again, that seems like a good idea. You're like, oh, well, if they're role-playing well, they should be rewarded. And they should, but not with this. And there's also an immediate way you can see where this would be abused. I just don't like rewards that can be used and spent in the game for a combat advantage as a currency. This is not a good idea. It's not a good idea here. It unbalances things in a way it breaks things. It's really unnatural. I don't like unbalancing things where it seems like you're just pulling things out of your ass. You know, where it's almost like that Looney Tunes cartoon where like all of a sudden this hand with an eraser comes and just stops something from happening. You know, it's the, you know, Deus Ex Machina bullshit that saves you from death. I don't like that. Now here's what inspiration is. DM can choose to give you inspiration for a variety of reasons. They can award it to you when you play your personality traits, given to drawbacks. In this game, you can choose essentially like, again, from White Wolf, basically. I'm not saying they ripped it off, I'm just saying this is similar to nature and demeanor, which is basically like your personality is like, they kind of sum up your personality in like 2 words, and then a drawback, which is like a character flaw. So when you play those things, your DM goes, oh, it was pretty cool, take an inspiration point. Okay. You can expend it when you make an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. Spending it gives you the advantage on that roll. Additionally, this is where it kills me. If you have inspiration, you can reward another player for good role-playing, clever thinking, or simply doing something exciting during the game. Quick, Spoonie's about to die. Who's got inspiration? All of a sudden, Spoonie gets 6 rerolls. Don't like it. Don't like it. That makes me sound like I'm out to kill that player over there. It's not true. What I'm saying is, players die. Life sucks, wear a helmet. You guys are too coddled. 4th edition, main thing I didn't like about 4th edition was players could not die. Didn't matter how low below 0 hit points you got. If you had a single hit point healed, you were above 0 again. You could be knocked 12 hit points below 0. 1 hit point healed, you were at 1. Did not like it. It's bullshit. No good. It's not good. And this one, inspiration, nope. Not feeling it. If I was playing this, it's going out the window. And I know, that's the thing. You're going to tell me. You're going to tell me, and you're right. If you don't like it, don't use it. And that's another mission goal. I think they mentioned this, and this is a cop-out. They're like, if you don't like it, don't use it. This is a modular RPG. Fair enough. But that's the case with any RPG. There was aspects of this game I didn't like. Didn't use them. There was aspects of this game I didn't like. Didn't use them. So, but this doesn't make this a better game. I don't use it. Like, but speaking of character death, this is one of the worst aspects of the game, is character death. This is gonna kick your ass. This This was the first thing I noticed, because I flipped right to combat, basically. This was the first sign I had that this game was really in trouble. You know, I was really not going to like this. When you're knocked below 0 hit points. I was really confused at first by how short the combat chapter is, which is about 10 pages. Because they cut, like, almost, not literally, but they cut almost everything out. Like, because there's really nothing to it. In a way, it's almost very close to this. You basically choose a target, you walk forward, you smack the guy. Yeah. I mean, there's other stuff you can do, obviously. It's more complicated than that. But without the map there, streamlined greatly. It's simultaneously the best and worst aspect of it, depending on whether or not you really like the map system or not. I did, but that's, again, I'm repeating myself. So let me go back to the below 0 hit point thing, if I can find it. Okay, attack rolls and damage, is that it? Skills are another thing that's really, really bizarre. There are no skills, basically. They've cut that out. Just process that one for a second. There are, but there aren't. There's skills, but you don't choose them. You can choose like a kit, but that's not choosing skills, really. Get to that in a second. Okay. Dropping to 0 hit points. When you drop to 0 hit points, you either die outright or fall unconscious, as explained in the following sections. There's death by massive damage. Something that almost never happens, so it's almost not... I'll just explain it. If you drop to 0 hit points, and it takes you below the number that is your maximum hit points, you die. So, for instance, if my maximum hit points is 8, and a hit takes me instantly to -8, I die. But here's where, if you just get knocked to 0 hit points, this is what happens. Bear with me. If damage reduces you to 0 hit points and fails to kill you, you fall unconscious. This unconsciousness ends if you regain any hit points. Okay. When you start your turn with 0 hit points, you must make a special saving throw called a death saving throw to determine whether or not you creep closer to death or hang on to life. Unlike other saving throws, this one isn't tied to any ability score. You are in the hands of fate now, Manos, aided only by spells and features that improve your chances of succeeding on a saving throw. Okay, right away, wrong. The death saving throw isn't aided by any ability score. It's not aided by a high constitution. That's why you have constitution. You're telling me that... Let's go to Dragonlance, for instance. You telling me that Riceland, the guy with the racking, bloody, persistent cough, would be no better at clinging on to life giving a sucking chest wound than Caramon, the guy who's built like a brick shithouse? It's given a constitution of 18 or whatever. Really, no better chance? It would be a straight coin flip. 3 times. A straight coin flip. High constitution wouldn't matter. I mean, there might be a feat that would tip the scales, but really, high con doesn't matter. Fuck you. Roll a 20. If the roll is 10 or higher, you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. A success or failure has no effect by itself. On your 3rd success, you become stable. On your 3rd failure, you die. The successes and failures don't need to be consecutive. You just have to keep track until you get 3 of a kind. The number is reset to 0 when you regain any hit points or become stable. If you roll a death saving throw and roll a 1, it counts as 2 failures. If you roll a 20, you regain 1 hit point. If you take... This is the part that just stunned me. If we're playing... Now, again, hang on. If you take any damage while you have 0 hit points, you suffer a death saving throw failure. If the damage is from a critical hit, you suffer 2 failures instead. If the damage equals or exceeds your hit point maximum, you suffer instant death. Alright. So, if you suffer any damage while you're at 0 hit points, you fail a death saving throw. Any. So, if I'm on the ground bleeding out, and a dog bites me, death saving throw, fail. You know, if somebody, any damage really, if somebody kicks me, that's some damage, I fail. If somebody takes a bastard, well actually there are no bastard swords in this version, I checked. If somebody takes a great axe and hacks me in the chest, but it doesn't do enough to take me to negative, you know, my negative maximum hit point score, 1 fail. It's all the same. This is no good. I get why they're doing it. It's in the name of speed. Too fast. Sometimes you need those, sometimes you need these extra rules. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, and I hate to bring this up, you know what? I'm going to bring it up. And this is where you're really going to hate me. I'm going to break out the book again. Let's see. When do you die in this game? Character death. When a character reaches 0 hit points, the character is slain. How's that for fast, motherfucker? That's how we did it. Oh, what? That doesn't sound fair to you? That you don't like that? Do you wanna play this game? Do you wanna play a game that's more balanced? You wanna play a fair game? Okay. I'll give you a game with second wind so you can heal yourself. Or you could play like your character actually meant something, like your character's life actually had value. You could try to play smart. You could actually maybe try to work like a team instead of acting crazy and being stupid and acting like your actions don't matter and they don't have consequences, and you know, you could, you know, 3 saving throws, 10 or above. What the fuck are you doing? In my day, 0 meant fucking 0. What is this? Is not 0 with negative hit points and 0 and what? This is 0. 0 is gone. 0 is all dead. Dead. 0 is nothing. There is nothing left of you. Dead. You want to come back? They gotta take you to a priest, motherfucker. That's fast. That's how fast it happens. You want streamlined? I got you streamlined right here. That's what happens, bitch. That's what I'm talking about. But they don't do that. You know why they don't do that? It's because you're a bunch of pussies. You're a bunch of whiners, and you're a bunch of coddled babies. They put this in here where they go, they think they're being retro. They think they're being retro by putting in the book here that you roll your stats now. You roll 46, drop the low. Ooh, we're going back to the past. Do you dare? 4d6 drop low. Ooh, risky. And then they just go and include, like, but here's the point buy system anyway. Pussy. Because you're just going to go back to point buy. You know you will. Because I fucking hate, even Pathfinder, even my fucking group, bitches and moans. I want to do point buy. I want to do point buy. If I rolled, I might get a bad character. Somebody else might get a really good character, and my character might be bad. Well, Lottie fucking da! That's what happens, bitch! Some people is born stupid. Some people are born with great hair. I can't help it if I got an 18 charisma, dude. You know, that's life. Get good. You know? I don't know what to tell you. You gotta deal with it, man. This is just the way things work. Just roll your fucking stats and be a man. Be a woman. The way the point buy system works, I hate it. I hate the fact that every single character from 3rd edition on is the same fucking character. They always choose the same stat line. They always assign them the same way so as to build the optimal character. In fact, they even tell you what the optimal character build is. For a wizard, for a cleric, for whatever. They go, yeah, for the ideal thief, they might as well, you're going to get like a 16, 14, 12, 12, 10, 10 or something like that. You're probably going to want to put the 16 in dexterity. You're probably going to want to put the 14 in intelligence or strength. You know, like, you're all going to get the same fucking thief. You're all going to get the same fucking fighter, same fucking cleric. I hate it. It's only like people who are trying to play oddballs who are getting different characters, and they're really not getting optimal builds, and they're gonna get fucking punished. The only people who play interesting characters are the people who roll their characters, and DMs won't fucking let them because they might be unbalanced. And nobody else is playing a roll character. Fucking Christ. You know, I can't stand it. I really can't. It's just... there's point buy systems I like, but there's like GURPS, but in GURPS you had choices. There's perks and flaws that you had to buy. You know, there was different choices and different numerical values assigned to it. It wasn't just like everyone gets the same stat block, everyone gets the same. No, it's not like that. In this. Again, this is the same thing. Every character in this, from every character, from every class, is the same thing. They basically just hand you the character sheet. Over time, every single character just, no matter what they start as, they just kind of merge. Aside from slight spell variations, they're just gonna just merge together and go. It bugs the shit out of me. Another thing I don't like is they've changed what a short rest is. Short rest was rests were introduced in 4th edition, where you had encounter powers and you had daily powers. Encounter powers were like really good powers, but you could only use them like you could use them once until you did a short rest, and a short rest was like 15 minutes. Now short rests are an hour. So for instance, like if you were pretty much every class has some kind of like resource pool. So for instance, like sorcerers have a magic pool. Sorcerers are really cool in this game, I will admit. But sorcerers kind of get to shape magic and do different effects with them. So like they can throw like a column of fire, and depending on how much magic they spend, they can make it like longer or wider or something like that. But monks, for instance, they have a key, so they can hone their karate and shit and do ki powers like flurry of blows and shit like that. But they only have a limited amount of it. So to recharge it, they have to take a short rest. So once they run out of ki, they have to go sit down for an hour. And they have to meditate for 30 minutes of it. And they only get their ki once they reach 2nd level. Another thing that bugs the shit out of me is that you really have to get to 3rd level before you're really capable of anything. This is a weird aspect of this game, is you don't really become a character until 3rd level. It's funky that way. Just looking at the classes, you only get your... for instance, just looking at the fighter, you get a free attack at 2nd level. You get a 2nd attack at 2nd level. It's only when you reach 3rd that you finally are like, okay, now I'm a fighter. You have to reach 2nd level as a monk before you get monk shit. Like, you get a ki pool. So you have to, like, 2nd level. You're not a monk until 2nd level. You're just some asshole who knows karate. You know, so it's like this, it's this slog through the first level or two before you actually know what the fuck you're doing. Even in this version, even in AD&D, if you were a wizard with 2 hit points, you still knew a spell. Wizards don't have this problem in this game, though. Fuck. You throw in cantrips at will. Although, wizards have another problem, which actually conveniently leads into one of my biggest problems with this game, multi-classing! Multi-classing is ass in this game! I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with multi-classing, but this is all over the place. My God, where do I start with you don't even need to look that hard in the multi-classing to see in how many ways, not even abuse it. Because abusing it would not be my goal, but one of the first thing that stuck out to me is just looking at the weaknesses of the various classes. And the worst, actually, what's funny is, Wizard is simultaneously, the spellcasting classes are simultaneously one of the most broken and one of the weakest classes. No more so than the Wizard. The Wizard sucks. If you're going to play any kind of spellcasting class, don't play the Wizard, unless you multi-class. But if you're going to multi-class, this is a really good idea. Okay, so what page is multi-classing? 163. Multi-classing works just like it does in 3rd edition, basically. Every level, you can choose to stick with your current class, or you can choose to go with a different class. You keep all the abilities of your old class, and you can, depending on the rules, you take some features of the new class. Which you're like, okay, fair enough. But they do include something that is kind of harkening back to this version, where you can, well, actually no, because there's dual classing and there's multi-classing. Multi-classing, you have to start off multi-class. Dual classing is really complicated. Forget that. Forget I said anything. In this one, you have to have prerequisites to multi-class, which is kind of like what I was talking about. But, okay, multi-classing. So, let's say that I'm a rogue, and I want to take a level of wizard. Fine. So I pick up the abilities, I pick up the proficiencies that wizards have, that the rogues don't, which is nothing. And I get their spellcasting abilities. That's it. So if I'm a rogue and I want to pick up fighter, I look on the table and I pick up all the abilities that it says that I pick up from fighter. So from fighters I get light armor, medium armor, shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons. So I pick up some of the stuff that fighters get, not all of it, because that's not my primary class. Okay? So, I'm not a pure fighter. That makes sense. Some. However, it means that there's things that you want to start off as, and there's things you don't want to start off as. Because okay. For instance, rogues will always get, like, thieving abilities. Rogues will always get, like, sneak attack abilities. But really what it comes down to is, like, weapon proficiencies and armor proficiencies. Those are the things that always, that either you get or you don't get from this list. There's really, nothing is denied to you in multiclassing that is a primary core facet of the class. So for instance, if I'm a fighter and I go into rogue, it never says, well, you can't pick locks, or well, you don't get backstabs or something like that, or whatever. You know, you don't get denied any kind of core rogue thing, or you don't get penalized any kind of rogue ability. If I go into cleric, I don't get denied any cleric abilities. If I go into wizard, I don't get denied any wizard shit. Other than the fact that I'm not 100% wizard. You know, if I'm level 1 fighter, level 1 wizard, the only downside is that I'm not a level 2 wizard. So, here's the difference. If I'm a level 1 wizard, and I want to pick up a level of fighter, wizards have essentially no proficiencies in anything. In fact, they have literally no proficiencies in any armors. They have no armor of any kind. So if I was to multiclass into fighter, I would then have light armor, medium armor, shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons. Okay, cool. Whereas if I were to start off as a fighter, I would have everything. I would have, like, every armor, shields, simple, martial, you know, all that. In fact, let me make sure that's what I have. It's basically everything. It's more. It's definitely more. Okay. Class features. All armor, shield, simple, martial. Yeah. So, here's the difference. If I start off as a fighter, and I go to wizard, wizards grant me nothing. It says on the table they grant you nothing, because they have nothing to start with. They get weapons, fuck that. You know, I have a knife and I have a stick. You know. Whereas if I class into fighter, I don't get the heavy armor. Now, this is somewhat of a min-maxing thing, but here's where I'm going with this. And you can argue this for a lot of different multi-classing things. There's no reason not to multi-class in a lot of circumstances. I wrote down a couple of examples. I'll do the best one I've got. I said only the biggest idiot in the world would single class as a wizard. This isn't even min-maxing, this is basic fucking survival. Just imagine what your armor class would be trying to get through life as a wizard. You know, trying to get your survival. It sucks. You have no armor proficiency. You might pick up some magic swag here and there, but oh, I'm leaving out a key fact. I'm sorry. I left out a key fact here. You're like, well, what about spell failure? Because wizards can't cast spells in armor. That's been something that's been in D&D forever. Because in this version, would never happen. Can't. You just cannot cast spells in armor. There may be some percentile chance, but yeah, it basically just cannot happen. In 3rd edition, there's a percentile chance that adds the more armor you add. In this version, here's what it says about spell failure because of armor, and that would be on page. Oh, great. Where is it? Oh, page 201. It'll come together once I read this. Casting in armor. Because of the mental focus and precise gestures required for spellcasting, You must be proficient with the armor you are wearing to cast a spell. You are otherwise too distracted and physically hampered by your armor for spellcasting. If you're proficient with it, you can cast in it. So, you would have to be the biggest idiot in the world to single class as a wizard. Like, this is basic fucking survival. Like, why would you ever not min-maxing? No. This is the armor class difference between something and nothing. Maybe I'm crazy, but my odds of surviving to level 20, I don't like my odds of surviving that far with an armor class of pants. I'll take chainmail, thank you very much. You know, even if I didn't start as fighter and go to wizard to get the... Really, the optimal thing to do is start as fighter, maybe go for fighter to like level 2 or 3, and then go to wizard to get your extra attack and maybe like extra... get the good fighter shit, and then front load and go to wizard. But go at least like 1 level in fighter just to get the heavy armor, and then you can cast spells in fucking plate with no penalty at all. You can cast in fucking plate. I'm proficient with it. It's no problem to me. But even if you're a wizard, like you get medium armor and you get shields and shit like that. So at least, for God's sakes, if you're a wizard, take a karate class or something like that. Well, not karate, but like shit, take a self-defense course or something. You've gotta. There is no excuse now, man. My God, they get no armor. Well, the other thing is like I don't think there's a percentage chance. It's everything or nothing. So if you don't have the proficiency, I think it says it's a flat no. You don't get to cast. So yeah. Now in AD&D you had essentially no option. Either you even if you multi-classed, if you were like a fighter mage, you still couldn't wear armor really. You could, but you couldn't. You could dual class to get armor, but you still couldn't wear armor. You know, armor was basically out. You had to have alternatives. You had to cast like mage armor and shit. You still could do that here. You still could do that in this book, in this game. But wow, the fact that you have no proficiency in any armor, that sucks. That is no good. I do not like this, and the fact, I do not like the multi-classing. That was one of many examples I found that, yikes. Oh, assassins. They have fucked the assassins. There's no such thing as assassins anymore. They're not a class. They're not even like a prestige kit. They're not a prestige class or anything like that. They've reduced them. Reducing isn't even, they've obliterated the assassins thing. They are now like they're like a, in AD&D they might be called a kit, meaning like a kit would be like a specialty version of a class. So for instance, like a ranger, there would be a kit to a ranger called an urban ranger, for instance. So you would take the basic ranger and then apply the kit to it, and it would essentially rewrite some of the class features of a ranger. That's not quite what this is, but for a rogue, you apply, like, it's like an archetype. I think it's called as an archetype. So when you choose your class, you choose an archetype, and it kind of guides what some of your powers will be as you level up. So if you choose rogue and your archetype is assassin, there's like 1, 2, 4 things that occur as you level up. And those things happen at 3rd, 9th, 13th, and 17th level. If you're an assassin archetype, yeah, you get 4 bonuses. The first thing you're going to see is at 3rd level, like I said. When you finally become the class that you're supposed to be. Because everything in every archetype starts at 3rd level. So, like, when you become the assassin, you know, when you become your class, you get your ultimate, you get your assassin ability. And your assassin ability is you have the advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat yet. In addition, you score any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. Okay, really cool. Also, the bonus proficiencies you get are the Disguise Kit and the Poisoner's Kit. But that's the assassin. Ooh. You know, just not good, you know. To me, one thing I saw was that I believe they were promising that this was going to be... I heard the word modular RPG being kicked around a lot. In that they were starting this off very, 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 very simply. As streamlined as possible. To make this as fast and as simple and approachable. Approachable is debatable. So they could add things to it to make it modular. Like you could plug things in. So I am merely judging it on essentially the core player's handbook alone. Maybe as time goes by and books are added, it would add some of the things that I think are missing, because like seriously, there may be like there may be a supplement that would add the map combat. Question is, do I care enough about it to buy another book for it when I have one? And in fact, that kind of goes against everything this version of the RPG stands for. Why would they do that? And I don't think they will. In fact, if I was doing this game, I wouldn't do that. In fact, I could easily see why it kind of fills me with dread, in the sense that depending on how evil they're likely to be, modular says to me that all the rules they could potentially plug in almost seems like this could be a game run on microtransactions. You know, so if they wanted, I can't even think of rules they might plug, like weather rules or horse combat rules, or you know, small things like any kind of small thing, crafting performance jobs or something like that, you know, actual skill system that actually functions. Skills are weird. Skills, there are essentially no skills. There's a bunch of things, there's like maybe a dozen things listed under your attributes, which you don't choose. When you choose your race and your class, it tells you what the race is proficient with and what each class is proficient with. So for instance, if you choose a fighter, it tells you fighters are proficient in athletics. So you go, okay, check. And it'll go, dwarves are proficient in, I don't even know what, dungeoneering, or that's not a skill, but like it goes, dwarves are proficient in this, crafting, or knowledge mountains, or whatever. I'll just find something. But it tells you, it gives you like, there's like 4 things. Okay. Okay, you do get to choose. Okay, so it says, you know, monk, choose 2 from acrobatics, athletics, history, insight, religion, and stealth. In many cases, though, the race does not give you a choice. But there's no ranks, there's no skill points. I apologize, I was wrong. But there essentially are no skills still. because it merely is whether you are proficient or not. And the skill set is extremely limited. Like I said, there's probably no more than maybe 12. There are none under Constitution, although I don't think there were that many to begin with in any other version. Let's see. And being proficient merely means that you have... Let's see, +2, maybe? Yeah, the only proficiency under strength is athletics. Dexterity is acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. Intelligence is essentially all knowledge skills. Arcana, history, investigation, nature, and religion. Wisdom, animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. Charisma, deception, intimidation, performance, persuasion. So like I said, they've boiled everything out. Basically, what this means is you have a list of things that your character is either good at or not good at. So, at the beginning of the game, your character is either, when you choose your monk, for instance, you know, you either chose your character to be good at medicine or survival. That was your choice. So when I say, okay, make a wisdom survival roll, you go, okay, and then you basically roll a wisdom check. You know, you roll d20, you add your wisdom modifier, and then if you're proficient, you add the proficiency bonus. If you're, oh, yeah, I thought it was 5, but I don't know what it is now. Whatever the bonus is. So it's really just a flat number to make it as fast as possible. They were really trying to cut out adding all the little minute modifiers. I can appreciate this. At the same time, though, I kind of liked being able to fine-tune my character. You know, I liked having characters that were different. I liked being able to choose. I liked choice. I like having customizable characters. This, again, makes it so that every fighter's the same. Every monk is the same. You know, every mage knows Arcana. Every mage knows history. And before you start, you might be like, well, every mage does know Arcana. Every mage does know history. Every thief does know sleight of hand. Every thief does know stealth. Actually, that's not true, because my friend Matt wasn't that kind of thief. But that's the point! That's exactly what I'm telling you, is some players don't want to play that kind of thief. And it's true, you don't have to play that way in this. In fact, well, maybe you do. I'm curious about that now. Do you have to play that kind of thief? If you do, that would be hilarious. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Okay. Yeah, you have to choose among 4. But, so you can choose. But your choice is really, really limited. Way more limited than I'm accustomed to. I just find that in this more than any of the other games, you have so few choices. Really, it feels like I'm being strangled in terms of character development. Because you have as your character develops, you only have like 2 choices. When your character gains abilities, you can either choose to take that class ability, or you can choose a feat. It's one or the other. That's pretty much the only customization that you can choose. It's a big decision, and that's the only thing that really differentiates your character. It's a big difference, but it's the only thing. If you follow. And those changes, that difference really doesn't come often enough. Let me compare it to Pathfinder. In Pathfinder, you get something every level. It's fun to level up. You get something every level. You know, it's in this version that doesn't happen. you know, it's kind of a bummer when you when all you get is like an ability score point. You know, it's kind of a bummer when one of your class abilities just kind of bumps a point. And that's usually what happens here is, you know, when it's when the choice is made for you. Like, if you chose Assassin at the beginning of the game and it's like, oh, okay, at 3rd level, congratulations, you got that thing you chose at level 1. It's nice to have that thing, but I don't know. I like choice, you know, and having all those, having a bunch of skill points to begin with. You know, some classes had a lot more choice than others. Fighters, you know, they had maybe 4 skill points. They didn't have a lot of choice, but they didn't study, you know. Going around in circles. Going around in circles. Let's see. I saw a lot of people on Twitter who were saying things like, they finally got D&D right. I'm interested to know where they're coming from in terms of experience. And they're probably coming from a similar place as mine. You know, from the same age group. I wonder where they get that. Because I don't find that at all. 'Cause I was really thinking hard about this. Because for what it does extraordinarily well. It's very well designed for what it wants to do. And what it wants to do is make things very fast and very, very simple. Unfortunately, I think when you make it this simple, it becomes... It kind of becomes Cowboys and Indians, you know. I don't like it this simple, you know. I liked having the structure. I can definitely get the desire to move things along, but I think sometimes that's a symbol of just kind of poor discipline among the group, is just being able to keep things moving, you know. I agree that 4th edition was agonizingly slow. This seems like a massive overcorrection to that. But I do agree that it is very slick in keep things moving. But it's just, it's too simple. It's too bare bones. It almost feels like it's half finished. There's too much missing. It feels hollow to me. And I just don't see where they're like, finally this is a return to form. Finally this is the D&D that I remember. You know, they finally got D&D right. And D&D, even when it was brand spanking new, you know, when it first evolved out of chainmail, when it was essentially like just really, really loose set of rules. You know, it was, I don't know, it wasn't like this. You know, they're trying to have it both ways. You know, they're trying to shiny and streamline up essentially 3rd edition. They're trying to cut the fat and most of the muscle from 3rd edition and make it look like the very 1st edition, you know, to kind of woo the old school gamers over. And I think in an attempt to please everyone, well, I was going to say it pleases nobody. Apparently it's pleasing everybody except me. But it doesn't work for me. forget what I was gonna say. Going back to my dirty room analogy. When it comes back to this, I compared this to a dirty room where I knew where everything was, and that's why I loved it. You know, never said this was I never said this was some pinnacle of balance and order, and you know, I would hold this up to this and be like, this is so much better design than this. You know, I would rather play this than this, but I would never be like, you know, this. Well, in many ways, I would choose this over this, especially in terms of at least introducing players to what the fuck D&D is. At least telling them what the fuck a paladin is. Jesus Christ. But like, in terms of like rule balance or something, in many ways, in terms of mechanics, shit, this blows it out of the water. But in terms of the dirty room analogy, this is like this if you cleaned the room up. What the fuck did you do to my room? I knew where everything was. I liked my room messy. You know? I had my room just the way I liked it, you know. It looked like a bomb went off in my room, but I had all my shit stacked up, and it was all. What the fuck did you do that for? You know, like that's what I'm going on about. You know, it's really stretching that analogy to its breaking point, but like, yeah, you really, it really is shiny to the point where it's really worn like paper thin, you know. Trying to think of, I'm trying to think of anything a better way to phrase it than that. Really, I didn't play much of the very first edition. I could definitely tell you it's more complex than that, but if I was going to compare it to say they got D&D right, you know, I'm sorry, I seem to always remember Dungeons and Dragons. It was always kind of a bloated mess of rules, you know. I don't remember D&D ever really being that streamlined and fast and easy to play. I seem to always remember it being a bunch of really kind of complex tables and kind of crazy, sometimes conflicting stuff. And in fact, I remember it being a lot of kind of counterintuitive math and a lot of modifiers you had to juggle. Oftentimes that didn't make sense and things like that. Even in the first edition, there was kind of problems that way. This doesn't remind me of this at all. You know, this seems like you kind of cut the balls off this one. You know, in fact, in the old edition, I remember seeing like a way different art. In this one, in the old edition, I remember kind of seeing like almost pencil drawings with titties and stuff like that. It'd be kind of interesting if you did that in this version. Kind of really risque type of art, and kind of went back to if you went back to your origins and made it kind of a adult RPG. And I'm not saying titties in every picture, but you know, it would be kind of interesting to see if you actually found a grew a pair and stopped being G-rated. You know, that's all I'm saying. Oh, one thing I did like is they kind of brought the Planescape world back. There's not too much detail in the player's handbook, but they brought back essentially the entire Outlands type thing, the pizza with sigil in the middle. So that's good. They brought back alignments too. Fuck's sake, about time. They didn't do that lawful good, unaligned, evil, chaotic evil thing. Like, they didn't do the 5 alignments thing. They finally brought back the law, chaos, good, evil axes. Fuck's sake, finally. Jesus. Okay, I have gone on for 2 hours now. if you are not informed of my opinion by now, I don't know what else to tell you. My throat is blown out. So, hey, you know what I think. I'm pretty sure I know what you think, but I will listen. I have done my best to keep an open mind. I have I seriously spent all night thinking of thinking of the stuff this game has done well, and in fact I know exactly what this game does well, and I admit it. I think to me it's just a matter of personal preference. It really does come down to simplicity and expediency over whether or not you like that kind of detail, whether or not you like the crunch of the combat. You know, and I do. You know, whether or not you argue it slows the game down too much. I don't think it's a crutch at all. I just think, to me, games like Pathfinder are a lot like this. You know, I don't think this is... I just don't think this is D&D finally done right. This to me is not some echo of this. I don't see that, you know. Or an echo of the very first edition. And if so, I don't know who was calling for that. It just seems like an overreaction to me. Anyway, I will stop repeating myself. Until then, I hope I have informed you. And from there, I can only tell you to follow your heart. My personal recommendation is Pathfinder. And that's me being a fanboy, but that's this fanboy's opinion. Until then, game on.